भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। So having said that the consciousness is independent of object, the object universe includes what? Everything. It includes time, space, it includes the planets, galaxies, sun, moon, stars, the whole earth, different species, everything is what we call an object of awareness, including this body and mind and everybody's body and mind. Okay? And awareness is something which is independent of everything. Okay? But as we saw that if there were two realities called awareness, which is all pervasive, okay, and objects of awareness which are different from awareness, then awareness would be what? Still limited. Right? If there are two things enjoying the same order of reality, then what? One limits the other. Right? No matter how big is one and how small is the other, that small one will limit the other. Okay? So therefore, Lord Krishna in the verse 16, he said, Nasato vidyate bhavaha na bhavo vidyate sataha ubhayorapi drushtontaha tvanayos tattvadarshibhi. Okay? So the tattvadarshi are the wise people who are able to understand the fact that asataha bhavaha na vidyate. Okay? Something which is asat. Now asat does not mean, generally asat, by asat we generally mean something which is not there at all. Okay? So therefore, for example, human being's tail, which is not there. Okay? So this is the understanding of asat. Here it is not used in that sense. So this is why the word asat somehow is then translated as an illusion. So people begin to think that the world is an illusion. We are not talking about world being an illusion. Asat here is used in the sense of mithya. Mithya means that it has a dependent reality. Okay? Neither you can say that it is sat, nor you can, sat means absolutely existing, independently existing, nor you can say that it is not existing. Okay? So this in-between reality, we give it a name called mithya. Okay? So last time we saw that this pot has the so-called in-between reality. Neither you can say that it is not there because it can hold a little bit of water, it being a very small pot. Okay? And it has a form and it has a name. Okay? But in terms of content, it cannot exist without the clay. Okay? So that means if you take out clay, right, there is no existence of this pot. You can't say the clay is on top of the pot, you can't say it is at the bottom or on the side. The whole pot is nothing but clay, right? So this is why, so you can't, so clay and pot are not two synonyms, right? So one has more reality than the other. Okay? So the clay has more reality than the pot. Why? Because before the pot came into being, there was always clay. While the pot is existing, clay is very much there. And after the pot goes, clay will continue to exist. Okay? So therefore, if you begin to give reality to the form, that is our normal understanding. We see forms and we think that they are absolutely real. what Lord Krishna is saying is the forms, which includes what? All the objects of the universe, they are asat. Asataha bhavaha na vidyate. They are mithya, and if you begin to inquire into the reality of all the objects, then what? They begin to have dependent reality. So with reference to the pot, clay is satyam because it is independent with reference to the pot, but the clay itself depends upon what for its existence? Depends upon what?
Particles of clay.
The particles, right? The particles themselves depend upon what? So this is where we see that there is at same where you see one object, actually it is nothing but what? Forms within forms, within forms, within forms, each one dependent on the other. Okay, so that means that where you see many, there is actually only one, because where there is pot, that's exactly where there is clay. There is no difference in time and space, right? Where there is clay, that's exactly where the particles are. And if you take out particles, then there is no clay. Okay, so therefore everywhere you have forms within forms, and each previous one becomes the very basis of the other, and that other cannot exist without the previous. Okay, so this is where you then have the whole object. Now that you have examined the pot, you can go to the sun, you can go to the moon, you can go to a huge mountain that you see in front of you. Okay, everything else, in fact quantum physics has helped us a lot, right? Because we've been talking about world being mithya for a very long time. Okay, now quantum physics has actually said that this so-called huge sun that you see is again nothing but atoms, and the atoms are nothing but particles, just as this table and this little pot is nothing but arrangement of different particles. Okay, that huge sun out there is also equally nothing but arrangement of particles. Okay, so that means it also has a dependent reality. In terms of the form, they are very different forms, they do very different functions. Okay, but in terms of the reality, they all have a dependent reality. Okay, so then the question comes, if the whole universe is nothing but forms within forms, then what does it depend upon? When I say it depends upon something, okay, so the science cannot find what is the final building block of the universe, okay, because the minute they identify something, that itself then depends upon something. So this is where what Vedanta says is that if you're looking for the building block of the universe as an object, then you will never find it. Okay, what happens to be the building block of the whole universe is the subject awareness and not any given object. Okay, so this is where, how do you support that? It says that actually after particles and quarks and all, it all becomes just nothing but concept. Okay, there are no tangible objects anymore after particles, right? So therefore even particles, I don't think that they are very tangible. Okay, so therefore what it says, it ultimately everything is a concept, and then what is the relationship between a concept and awareness? For any concept to exist, you must have awareness, whereas awareness, what? Can exist without concept. Okay, so that means even the concept has dependent existence, and awareness is what? Independently existing. So therefore the truth of the whole universe, right, which has a dependent reality, is very well hidden where? As your eye. You don't suspect it. Okay. There is an amazing, it's a very nice story. So there is a story that two people, just to tell you, that two people were traveling in a train, and there was one who was a thief and the other one was a person. So the person who was actually buying something and he was counting his money. So the thief said, okay, now I'm going to steal his money tonight. Okay. So they, at night when they are just basically, getting ready to go to bed and all, this man is counting his money to make sure that everything is there. And the thief says, okay, now tonight I'm going to get it, right? So then they go to the bathroom, they come back, and they go to sleep. And this around 2 o'clock in the morning, the thief gets up and starts searching for this money, okay? And he looks in his bag, and then in his shirt, and little bit in his pants, and everywhere, and he doesn't find this wallet, right, that he saw. So that night he was very intrigued. He says, I just saw him counting the money, and where is this? And so the whole night goes and he does not find it. So next morning then there was a second night, and he says, now this night I'm going to really, get this money. So the second night happens and the same thing happens, and then he looks everywhere and he doesn't find it. So the third night, next morning, the thief was so curious. He was like, now where did you hide this money? I've been searching and I thought I was a pro, and I searched everywhere and I just couldn't find it. So tell me, where did you keep your wallet? So this man said that when I was counting the money, I saw that you had some other intention, the way you were observing me and the way you were looking at me. So I thought, where is a place where I can hide it, where you will never suspect that it is? Where?
His own belongings.
He says, I put it under your pillow. Right, exactly, his own pillow. So he says, so this is exactly how the truth of the universe is very well hidden. We keep on looking for our contentment outside, solution to our freedom, engaging in millions of activities, okay, entering into thousands of relationships, okay, but the truth is so well hidden where you will never suspect it is. Okay, so this is where the whole universe, which is an object of awareness, okay, is actually a dependent reality on that awareness, which is the only independent reality. And this is what he said, that sataha abhavaha na vidyate. The awareness never is absent in anything. The forms keep coming and the forms keep going. The forms are subject to change, they are subject to time, okay, and they keep changing. Okay? But does anything happen to the awareness when the forms are changing? No. Okay? So this is what he says, that the forms actually are not even there because they have a dependent reality. So this body has a dependent reality, the mind has dependent reality, everything has dependent reality, and that keeps on changing, and it has to come up one day and it has to leave the other day. But awareness is something, there is never a time that awareness was not, and there was never a time that awareness will not be. And not only that, the whole universe depends upon this awareness. And because it is a Satya-Mithya relationship, therefore you can say awareness is limitless. Because limitless means you cannot have two. Right? Limitless can be only one. Okay? So this is what Lord Krishna says, that the Tattvadarshi, the wise person, sees this reality, and therefore the person is free, because from that is leading you from, we have a very beautiful prayer in our Vedic culture. We say asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityor ma amrutam gamaya. You are asking for what? This. From asat. Because what is my problem? My problem is, where there is mithya, it seems like satyam to me, right? where there is a dependent existence, I take it as absolutely real, and the reality is totally missed out in my life. Okay, so what am I praying now? Asatoma Sadgamaya. Okay, because my whole attention is what? On these mithya objects which seem like Satyam to me, and Satyam is totally missed out. So I am asking that let me be connected to Satyam, okay, and let me understand mithya as mithya. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Okay, tamas is darkness, darkness of ignorance. Okay, so that means that when I make that mistake, okay, where actually my Atma, which is limitless, indestructible, never changing, okay, I take it as what? One little body and mind which is so insignificant, and I suffer from all the limitations of body and mind as my limitations. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. From this darkness of ignorance, take me to the light, light of knowledge. Light of knowledge where I don't make that mistake. That mistake is a huge mistake. Don't think people say, oh, so what will I get out of knowing Vedanta? If Atma is all, everything there is, the truth of everything, and if I take it as one tiny dot in the universe, what is the magnitude of mistake that I am making? Huge. Okay? And if all my transactions in the world are based on thinking that I'm this little individual and I want to become bigger and I want to become free, right? So what is going to be the quality of my transaction with this error as the basis? Right? So don't think that Vedanta is just something which is, of what consequence. How much of your life is lived, or what the kind of decisions that you make, how much is dependent upon what you think about yourself and what you think about the world. In fact, it percolates all your decisions, right? What you think about yourself and what you think about the world, that becomes the basis of all your actions and all your transactions. And if that itself is not a small mistake, but a highly skewed, highly distorted reality, right? Everything else is going to be what? Further tangled. Okay? Tangled in terms of a lot of subjectivity, where you not only you think that you are an individual, but when you interact with the world, when things don't happen your way, what? You again load that little individuality as what? I'm a failure, I'm no good. Okay? Or what? This person is responsible, right, for my not getting what I want. So now I have hatred towards this person. I cannot stand this human being. I think that person is not really, good to me. So that means that there is, over a period, there is also what we call a huge psychology of a victim. Victim means I'm good, right? But look at the forces. That people are inimical to me. And imagine if your transaction with the world has that implicit assumption, what is going to be the nature of your transaction with the world? How are you going to act in the world? What is going to be the quality of your interaction with others? Okay? So this is something which this error correction is extremely important, because the tamas to jyotir is a huge thing. From darkness of ignorance to light of knowledge, it percolates everywhere. Okay? Or statements like world is unfair. Who says world is unfair? Okay? Or these times are really bad. Hey, who says these times are really bad? Okay? There are all kinds of nuances in the world. Okay? So that means that a few years ago, there was slavery. There were colonization, So there were equal amount of cruelty. Don't think that now it is all very bad. That is something which has happened. It goes on. World has all kinds of people. And while there was colonization and while there was slavery going on, there were great minds like Mahatma Gandhi and Einstein all coexisted. How can you make such simplistic statements about the world and take it as reality and begin to live your life like that? Okay, so this tamas, it's not one error leads to series of other errors. Please understand that. So correcting this basic understanding is something which is critical to living a healthy life. Because that one basic error gets further entangled and further the whole entrenchment into wrong thinking. That's why a human being becomes a highly complex human being with lots of distortions. Lots of distortions, not just one distortion. Okay, so this is where what tamasoma jyotirvi, I'm asking for that. Okay, and mrityorma amrutam gavaya, from mortality to what? Immortality. So that means in that prayer there is an understanding already of what? This Vedic vision of Atma being immortal. Look at the prayer. Beautiful prayer. Okay? And we keep on saying it and we don't even know what we are asking. We just repeat like parrots. Tamasoma, and very vaguely we understand, right? It is one of the most significant prayers. It's beautiful. Okay. So the ultimate goal of human life is seen as understanding one's immortality. And to think that I am mortal is what? Because of ignorance, tamas. Okay. And what? The ignorance is of what nature? What is unreal, which is mithya, is taken as satyam, and satyam is missed out. Asato ma satgamaya. In the whole prayer, the importance of Vedanta vision is given to you. How it is critical in your life. Okay? So this is what he says, that the Tattvadarshi understands the whole puzzle of life is undone by this person. Okay? So now there is a final verse which then summarizes what exactly then it means with reference to the nature of Atma. Okay? So this is where he says, this Atma is 25 verse, chapter 2, Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryo yamuchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitum arhasi. You don't deserve to grieve. Okay? Why? For Atma. Because what was Arjuna's problem? Arjuna's problem is that I am going to kill all these people. Okay? And I am going to cause so much destruction. Okay? So that means that the understanding of Atma that Arjuna had is that it is subject to death. Okay? And it is going to, he is going to cause all the extinction of so many people. Okay? So this is where he says, if you think Atma is going to go, right, then it is not true. Okay. What is the nature of Atma? Avyakto ayam achintyoyam avikaryo ayam uchyate. Okay. So the awareness, now that we have seen, the awareness is if your eye is placed at its right place in awareness, okay, then you will understand that Atma is something which is what? It is not available to you as an object. Yeah. So that means it is vyakta is exactly, it is available as an object. Here it doesn't mean that it is unmanifest. I mean, this is a translation problem. Doesn't mean, because Atma is something which is always present. Okay, but it is the only reality in this world which is available to you, what? Not as an object, but as self-evident I. Everything else in the universe, you have to, what? Objectify to know it. Okay? There are two types of objectifications that we do. One is Indriya Pratyaksha and the other one is Sakshi Pratyaksha. Indriya Pratyaksha means something that I objectify using my sense organs. I use my eyes to see this form. I use my ears to hear the sound. I use my nose to smell. Right? So that means I need my sense organs to be able to know things and to identify things, engage in the world. Okay? Then there is another type of objectification which is what we call Sakshi Pratyaksha. Okay? My emotions, how I am feeling today. Do I need to use my eyes to know? No. Okay? Whatever is going on in my mind, I don't need to use my sense organs to know what is going on, but I still can know what is going on. This is what we call witness perception. Okay? So there is Sakshi Pratyaksha and then there is Indriya Pratyaksha. Okay? Now, Atma, is it available to you? Atma, is it available to you for objectification? No. Because if it is available to you for objectification, then who is the subject who is objectifying? Right? So this is the end. Then if everything is known through objectification, then what would happen is, if Atma is not available for objectification, then one would not know it. Is it true? No. Everybody knows I am. So that means I am is the only reality which is available to you, not through objectification, but as what? Something which is self-evident. First you know I am, then you use your eyes to see and something else. Okay? So this is where it's very important to understand that that's why there is a difficulty in knowing, because every knowing takes place through objectification. So now your tendency is to somehow objectify Atma, right? But this is not the way that you're going to know it. It is something which is self-evident. What Vedanta is doing is, Vedanta is not telling you that there is Atma, because Atma is already known to you. You already know I am. Okay? What does Vedanta do? Vedanta helps you to see this Atma in a proper light. Because this self-evident I, you have, what have you done? You have mixed it up with what? The characteristics of something which is an object of your awareness. So Vedanta, what? Makes you undo that mix-up so that you can see the nature of I as it is without your distortion. Okay? So this is what it is doing. So here it says avyaktoyam, achintyoyam. So every thought that happens is something you must understand, that whatever the quality of that thought is. 1 minute you are happy, next minute something happens and you are not so happy, third minute you hear something great news and you are ecstatic. Okay? The mind and its emotions and all is a constant flux. It keeps changing. Atma is something which is never affected by it. Okay? So that is something which is always free. It is something which is not an object of your thought. It is because of which every thought takes place. And finally, it is avikarya. Avikarya means not undergoing any modification. Okay? So where is all the modification taking place?
The object world.
In the object world. Because object world is subject to time and space, and all the changes are taking place there. Vikarya means modifications, constant changes, constant modifications. Okay? So therefore we are not denying modifications. What we are saying is Atma is not subject to modifications. Okay? Now the final thing that you must understand about Atma, which is Professor Kulkarni asked last time, okay, now you understand that the objects depend upon Atma for its existence, whereas Atma is independently existing, and Atma is never actually affected by any of the changes which are taking place at the level of the objects. Okay. What about time and space within which all the objects exist? What is the relationship of Atma with time and space? That is also something which we need to examine. Right? Now again, for a long time, humanity thought that time and space is something which is absolute and within which, right, all the objects exist and then they keep on changing. Einstein, a few years ago, Einstein is about 60, 70 years?
Almost 1 century now.
Almost 1 century? Oh my God.
Beginning of 20th century.
Oh, beginning of 20th century. Okay. Just 100 years ago, which is still very recent, right? He recognized that the very time and space itself is relative. Okay, this is where this whole famous theory of relativity. Okay. And when he discovered that, he himself was so shocked. He says, my God, the ground on which I am standing is beginning to shake now. He didn't expect it. Okay. Now, what that means, that even relativity of time and space means it's relative, it's not absolute. That means it also has a kind of a dependent existence. So let's understand there are different ways of looking at it. If you just look at this, I think there are some experiments about space travel, the twins, right? So like twins are born, one stays on Earth. How does one understand relativity of time? Okay, and the other one goes on a space travel. Okay, now when that twin comes back to Earth, they both have not aged equally. So that means when you go out of this Earth atmosphere and you go out in space, the time doesn't work exactly as the time works on this Earth.
Because he was going at a very high speed.
Very high speed. Okay.
Close to the speed of the light.
Yeah, exactly. So the time happens because the whole universe is moving, and within that you are also moving, right? And the way you experience the time depends upon the speed at which you are moving. Right? So that is something which is amazing. Okay? And our ancestors have understood the relativity of time very well. Okay? What we do, you know, we do this Shraddha ceremony for our ancestors. Okay? And we do every year this annual ceremony. Okay? And what they say is that when you go outside this earth, okay, so 1 year there, 1 day there is equivalent to 1 year here. So that means if you're feeding your ancestors once a year, then for them it is every day. So that means that they understood very well that different places of the universe experience time differently. Okay. Now, that is something which is amazing, because don't think that time, the whole universe is dependent upon time. Time itself is a dependent reality, and it's something which is not absolute. Now the second way of looking at mithyatvam of time is just look at what is time. Just like how we look at what is the reality of thought, let's begin to see what is time. So we all right now, we agree that right now it is 6:30 in the evening. Okay, so that means for time for us is what? Counted by hours and minutes and seconds. You know, if you are more precise, it will tell you 6, then 30, and then how many seconds have passed. Okay, so that means we think about time in terms of the unit of time, a measure of time, and then you say it is what? 6 o'clock, hour. Okay, now 1 hour is again what? Nothing but 60 minutes. So that means this 1 hour that we say, again it has a dependent reality. Okay, because after it depends upon minutes, all of a sudden after 60 minutes we give it a different name called hour. Right? Now 1 minute itself depends upon 60 seconds. Okay. So after 60 seconds we said, okay, now it becomes, we give a different name, 1 minute. Okay, so hour is nothing but minutes. Minutes are nothing but seconds. Seconds are again nothing but microseconds, nanoseconds, right? So the very time keeps on, just like this form, it is forms within forms within forms within forms. The time itself is what? One measure within one measure within one measure, and after that what? Every point you can go further. Again, the time itself then becomes concept. You can't find a final unit. It becomes a concept, and concept what? Depends upon awareness for its existence. Okay. What about space? Space itself is something that the time and space are actually, they work together. Okay, so the easier way to understand the relativity of space is, right, we generally think about space in terms of what? Distance between two objects. Okay, so therefore between Surya and I, maybe there is what the distance would be about 3
meters. Yeah.
3-4 feet.
Meters. I don't know in feet.
Okay.
3 meters.
Yeah.
3 meters.
No, 4.
What is 3 meters? What?
1 is this, 1 meter is this much, right?
3
This is
feet.
1 meter.
So it's 4 meters at least, no?
Okay, so 4 meters, right? So between 2 points there is space. This is how we understand space in terms of distance, right? Now, the measure that we have, let's say meter, okay, that itself was 1 meter is how many centimeters? 100, right? So that means that so-called 1 meter that I am talking about is actually, again, has a dependent reality. Okay, it depends upon centimeter. Centimeter itself, what?
Millimeter.
Millimeters. Okay, and that goes on and on and on, right? So therefore, each thing is what? Dependent and dependent and dependent. Ultimately, it is nothing but a concept. Okay, and concept then depends upon awareness. So the time and space itself have dependent reality. It depends upon awareness. How do you then understand? This is too big a reality to fathom. Okay, so we are given, the Upanishads point to our own experience and our own experience of dream. Okay? In dream, what happens? You go to sleep and you wake up, right? And from your awareness, you create a dream world. The dream world has its dream time, dream space, dream characters, okay? Which are all within the dream characters. You have mountains, you have rivers, you have people around you. Then there is an interaction going on between one person with the other, okay? And those interactions can produce experiences, happiness, sadness, sorrows, jealousies, everything. Okay? Now the entire dream world that you see, which produces all these experiences, which seem so real to you in dream world, they come from where? From only one thing, which is your awareness. Your awareness. Right? While experiencing all these different things, has your awareness undergone any intrinsic change? Has it become the mountain? Has it really taken on the characteristic of the mountain or the river or any of the characters that you see in the dream? If it had, when you wake up, it will stick to you, right? None of it is sticking to you. So this is what actually this experience of dream makes us recognize how it is possible, just as in our dream, the dream time, dream space, dream objects depend upon one reality. Without that reality undergoing any change, you come back to waking, okay? And you can collapse the whole waking world again as a dependent reality. The only difference between dream and waking is what? Dream is entirely only created by you. So what you see, the others don't see. Right? You can be dreaming that you're in Italy and then nobody else has access to your dream. In the waking, it's not your creation. In the sense that you little I, it's not that one which has created the whole world. Okay? So that means even when you go to sleep, okay, somebody else who's awake sees the objects, right? This spot that we all see is not, it's not a subjective reality or anything. It has what we call certain empirical reality. So therefore, you have to understand that mithya is of two types. A dependent reality is of two types, but they are both mithya. Two types, one is what we call vyavaharika and the other one is pratibhasika.
Could you please repeat?
Yeah. Vyavaharika is empirical, empirically true. What is empirically true? This part. It's not only something that I see, Anushri sees it, Surya sees it, Dipesh sees it, Ratika sees it, we all see it. It has, even though it is empirically true, it's not an illusion, it is still mithya because it has a dependent existence. There is another type of mithya where, let's say I'm going in a forest and there is sun, it's almost after sunset, so it's slightly dark. Okay? And then there is a rope, but I see it as a snake. Okay? Does the snake that I see, does it have an empirical reality like this spot? No. Right? It is my subjective reality.
Perception.
It is my perception. Okay? But in terms of reality, it is also what? Mithya. It has dependent existence. Right? The snake that I see depends on what for its existence?
On your thoughts.
On my thoughts.
Sorry, what's the word for it? Vyavaharika is empirical, other one is?
Pratibhasika.
What is it? Prati?
Pratibhasika. Bhasika means it appears to me, therefore it is.
While she may think of it as a snake, I may think of it as a something else, a wood or a
Exactly.
branch or something.
Absolutely.
So he said it appears to be, therefore.
So there are two things.
So
One
it
is
appears to be, therefore it is.
Yes.
1 minute. There are two things, Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika. Vyavaharika is, it is, therefore I see it. Pot is, therefore I see it. Pratibhasika is, I see it, therefore it is for me.
Wow.
Okay. But in terms of, so that means mithya does not mean everything is exactly at the same level. Okay, one is Vyavaharika and the other one is Pratibhasika. The dream example is your Pratibhasika, right? Your individual creation. Okay, within that your individual creation, everything then depends upon you. The waking world, again in the waking world you can have what? Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika. In waking world, when you see the pot as the pot is, it is what? Vyavaharika. But when you see this pot and it reminds you of something and you are saying this is horrible pot, what is this awful, look at the color and it is small and it is, so that means what? You enter Pratibhasika. So we are constantly, when we interact with the world, we are constantly moving from what? Vyavaharika to Pratibhasika. You see an individual, what happens?
You make judgments.
You make judgments, you absolutely, perceptions, right? So that means you are not only seeing the world, you are constantly adding your own values to it. So, but both Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika are both mithya. But in order to know the final reality, which is what we call Paramarthika, Paramarthika is the absolute reality, what you need to do? You first need to reduce your Pratibhasika, right, your subjective reality, and begin to see what? The world as it is. Then you go one step further and begin to see the absolute reality. Because as long as you are operating from your Pratibhasika, you're subjective. Your mind is totally cluttered with your own opinions about things which is not available to examine truth. Every concept you add your own values and you are unable to see it clearly. So very essential part of understanding this reality is you reduce your Pratibhasika, you come to Vyavaharika first, that is the first step. Then you move to Paramarthika. Okay, so the so-called mithya world itself is nuanced. Okay, but the fact remains that the whole world is nothing but mithya. It has one Satyam as its basis. That Satyam, awareness, does not undergo any change whatsoever. Okay? And this is what he says, Panditaha na anushochanti. Panditaha is the wise people, they have a different vision of what Atma is. It is unfortunately, people take what is Gita saying as some kind of an advice by Lord Krishna to Arjuna that, oh, things change, so you should not be perturbed. He is not talking about not expressing emotions or not feeling emotions. He is talking about a reality which is a totally different reality. Please don't reduce Bhagavad Gita to some simplistic advice which is totally psychologically unhealthy. We are not talking about not having emotions or not expressing our emotions. We are talking about a huge understanding of reality, in light of which, if I understand what is the nature of Atma, which is the truth of everything, I will not look at the world as I used to do before. It's nothing to do about, oh, you should not feel like this and you should not feel like that, and oh, nobody, that means what will happen is that the sadness which is there, you will suppress it or you will not recognize it. And if you keep on suppressing your emotions, right, you will have more pratibhasika than before. You will become more subjective than before. Okay. So this is, it's talking at a different level altogether. So this is where he says that Panditaha na anushochanti, because what they understand about the world is totally different from what another person understands. Okay. So there he says that therefore there is no need for you to, again he comes back and he says that there is no need, you ought not to grieve for this Atma, because Atma is indestructible. Okay. Now, having said what the nature of Atma is, he now moves to a different topic altogether, and the topic is that of what we call Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is very, very famous. Everybody, all Indians talk about Gita, talking about Karma Yoga. Just like everything else in Gita, even Karma Yoga is not properly understood. Okay, so now we will see. Now he says, now there is a change of topic. So here he says, Esha te bihita sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shruno buddhya yukto yayav partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Okay, so here he says that the wisdom with reference to self-knowledge has so far been told to you. Now, Arjuna, listen also to the wisdom of yoga, endowed with which you will get rid of the bondage of action. Okay, so now what does it mean? It means that if basic problem is that I don't understand the nature of Atma, which is already limitless. Nobody can produce limitless. Okay? Because action is limited and action will give you limited result. That is right. So the only way to have the limitless is that it's already there, right? And you make an error in your understanding to give up your error and then to understand what is your nature. That is the only way one can gain limitless. Okay? So in that case, what is the use of action? Why do you then need to perform any action? Why do you then, because right now every action takes a lot of effort, and you get what you want, you don't get what you want, it leads to disappointment and all that, and ultimately it's only the knowledge which is going to give you the freedom that you are looking for. Then why action? Okay. This is a very valid question, and this is where you have, and this is exactly what Arjuna, we will see later, because he says that why should I fight when I now know that I only need to know my true nature, because the problem is about ignorance of my true nature. Okay. This is where, as I said, that I don't live in the world with what proper understanding of everything. I have too many pratibhasikas. Pratibhasika means too many subjectivities. Okay. So therefore, simple things, because every action that I perform, it is coming from my understanding of things first. Okay, so that means when I get angry, right, there is a maybe I start shouting or whatever, but before that, where is a distortion? In my mind. Okay, that my anger or my loud voice is an expression of some confusion that is happening here, right? So that means the you know, if I'm sad, or if I have problem of fear or anger or jealousy or insecurities, anxieties, all kinds of things, it is what? My capacity to assess the things are what? Clouded by my subjectivity. So that means in simple things, I'm not just in touch with whatever it is, I'm adding my own distortions. A mind which is a distorting mind in simple things, can it then understand the words of Vedanta accurately? You have only one mind to do everything, to transact with the world and also to understand the words of Vedanta. A mind which is basically a projecting mind will project its own meaning onto what is being said, and it will not accurately understand, right, what is said by Lord Krishna. So you have no choice but to prepare the mind so that what? It can understand the meanings accurately. So how do you prepare the mind?
These steps that you said, Patyanasika, removing the emotional part, the perception part,
Okay.
accepting.
Okay. So therefore, certain amount of re-engaging in the world, right, to first see where are my distortions, right, and undoing those distortions is something which is necessary before this knowledge can take place. So this whole engaging in the world, before we engage in the world and perform actions for what? For my fulfillment, right? For my happiness. Now I understand what? That my normal pursuit of artha and kama will not give me what I am looking for, right? I need to understand my true nature, but the actions that I used to perform to get different objects of the world, okay, now I perform to do what? To prepare my mind for this knowledge. Okay, why? Because before, when, for example, things did not, unless you engage in the world and certain distortions express themselves as anger, how will you even know that there are distortions in my mind? Okay, so now when you begin to engage in the world and then some anger comes or fear comes, you now understand that, hey, this is the area which I need to work on.
So bringing awareness into.
Exactly. And then you need to do things differently. When you do things differently, then what? Your mind does not operate in a mechanical mode, it becomes more deliberate. And it starts to undo these distortions where you operate as more responsible human being who's ethically more aware, okay, who's finds one's connection with the world, who's able to live better values, becomes bigger, becomes a contributor. You start to exhibit all the different qualities of a person who is a mature person. Unless you grow to be that person, that means then your mind has become what? Far more evolved than before, and that kind of a mind is able to understand this reality. Okay? So this whole engaging in the world, okay, for preparing oneself for this knowledge is what we call karma yoga. Karma Before it was used just to get this and that. Now the same karma which actually made more of an entanglement, I'm using to undo the entanglement. Therefore, it becomes yoga. Okay? So Lord Krishna says that you cannot just leave the world because now I'm in search for the truth and I want to know myself, right? Because if you walk out with your own distortions, you go to Himalaya, small things will again start bugging you, right? A little bit of car noise and you will be angry with the driver and who is making that noise, and then you will see somebody doing something and then you'll be angry with that. So that means leaving the world is not a solution, because you'll carry all your distortions with you wherever you go. The solution is staying there and undoing your distortions so that the knowledge can take place. Therefore, life of Karma Yoga becomes very important. Even though action directly cannot give you moksha, the moksha is from understanding the nature of oneself. Okay? But action, engaging in the world, can give you an opportunity to undo your distortions, right? And come more and more in touch with what is empirical reality, from where you can understand the Paramarthika. As I said, Mithya has two, Pratibhasika and Vyavaharika. Okay? So that means, now let's come back, then I will end, because let's say that what Vedanta is showing is what is rope. In this case, rope is Vyavaharika. Rope is what is there. And what is Vedanta showing you? The Paramarthika, which is the rope that you see is actually nothing but Mithya, and it has the reality which is the final reality. And imagine you are operating at the level of snake that you see, which is your creation. There is no match between what Vedanta is talking about and where you are operating from, because you don't even see rope, right? And you see snake and you're suffering from fear of the snake, and Vedanta is showing you reality of rope. There is no match. You first have to come from your snake to the rope, then Vedanta will work for you, which shows you a bigger reality than the rope that everybody sees. Okay? You have no choice but to take care of your subjectivities. This is what we call personal growth. Taking care of your subjectivities so that you act from a more responsible, more aware position, you become more deliberate and less mechanical. Okay? This is what we call human growth. And unless that human growth is, then you become a person who is eligible to contain limitlessness. It's not a joke. Okay? You have to become relatively big. If your vision of the world is I'm no good, how can you contain limitlessness? Your mind cannot hold it. If your vision of the world, others is that they are useless, or it's bad, the world is, you cannot hold limitlessness. You have to get rid of all these subjective opinions. You have to begin to see what? A lot of things they will see. What are all the, even at an empirical level, how do you use karma to become that objective person who's a mature person with right attitudes and values is now the topic. Okay. So the next few verses are amazing verses. they are talking about Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means you continue to engage in the world, but you engage differently so that you can get rid of your distortions. So that you become ready for this knowledge. Okay? So the next, yes, exactly. So the next 3-4 verses are brilliant verses. They talk about Karma Yoga. What exactly is Karma Yoga and what are the different aspects of Karma Yoga?
Probably get one friend next time. But don't worry, no catch up. No catch up.
I know.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.